Crossing from Zimbabwe into South Africa. This week, what travellers need to know. Dated Thursday, May 14th, 2026. If you are crossing from Zimbabwe into South Africa, this week, the main question is simple. Is Beitbridge in crisis again, or is this a normal crossing that now requires better preparation? As of Thursday, May 14th, 2026, the Kopje Journal and Review does not read the available signal as a fresh border collapse. This is not the April-style panic story, but it is also not a casual road stop story. The crossing is open. People are moving, goods are moving, buses, private cars, taxis, truckers, families, and cross-border travellers are still using the Beitbridge corridor. But the system is under pressure. That is the key sentence. Beitbridge is functioning, but it is not forgiving. When the Kopje Journal and Review last checked the Beitbridge corridor, the concern was border pressure, delays, immigration uncertainty, customs checks, and confusion over what travellers should expect. This week, the signal is different. There is no clear evidence of a fresh border collapse. There is no reason to tell every traveller to panic. But there is enough procedural pressure for travellers to prepare properly. The official position is clear. Zimbabwean. Ordinary passport holders are still listed as visa-exempt for short lawful visits to South Africa of up to 90 days. In practical terms, this means many Zimbabwean travellers do not need to apply for a visa before travelling for a short lawful visit. But visa-free does not mean officer-free. It does not mean question-free. It does not mean automatic entry as South African immigration. Officer still has authority to assess why you are entering, how long you are staying, where you are going, whether your documents make sense, and whether your visit is lawful. That is the part many people miss. Visa-free entry is not a blank check. It is permission to report to the port of entry without a visa for a permitted short visit. It is not a guarantee that every traveller will be admitted without questions. The reported signal is also clear. Beitbridge remains a high-volume, high-pressure corridor where delays can come from immigration questions, customs checks, bus inspections, passenger documentation issues, declarations, or operational pressure. The diplomatic signal points in the same direction. South Africa and Zimbabwe are still treating Beitbridge as a strategic corridor issue, not a minor border post. The South Africa-Zimbabwe Binational Commission Review discussed trade, transport, infrastructure, migration, border management, and more predictable crossing times on the north-south corridor. That does not prove a crisis this week, but the Kopje Journal and Review reads it as a reminder that Beitbridge remains a procedural crossing. In plain language, this means you should not travel as if a passport alone solves everything. You need your documents. You need your story. You need your destination. You need your return plan. You need your stamp. Your passport must not be at the edge of expiry. Your visit must make sense. Your destination must make sense. Your return plan must make sense. Let us slow this down. First, have a clear purpose. Are you visiting family in Johannesburg? Say that clearly. Are you traveling to Pretoria for an appointment? No. The address. Are you going to Musina, Polokwane, or Gauteng for shopping, family business, medical reasons, or transit? Be able to explain that. The immigration problem often starts when the story is vague. I am just going. I will see when I get there. I am visiting someone, but I do not know the address. I may look for something to do. That is where the risk rises. The Kopje Journal and Review reads this as a credibility issue. The officer is not only looking at your passport. The officer is testing whether the visit sounds lawful, temporary, and believable. Second, do not confuse visiting with working. A short lawful visit is not a work permit. It is not a study permit. It is not permission to settle permanently. If the real purpose is employment, study, long-term stay, or informal work, then the traveller is no longer inside a simple visitor lane. That is where immigration exposure begins. Let me be very clear. The visitor lane is for a lawful temporary visit. If the purpose is different, the risk is different. Third, check your stamp. This is basic, but it is important. When your passport is stamped, look at the date. Do not leave the counter without checking it. If the stamp is unclear, ask respectfully. If the number of days appears wrong, raise it immediately. A mistake at the counter can become a problem later. It can become a problem at departure. It can become a problem at a roadblock. It can become a problem at a workplace. It can become a problem during a future crossing. Do not assume the stamp is correct. Check it before you walk away. Fourth, families traveling with children should slow down. Children under 18 should not be treated as passengers who only need to be physically present. South African guidance requires the correct child documents. In most cases, that means a valid passport and parentage documentation, such as an unabridged birth certificate or equivalent document. If one parent is traveling alone with the child, or if another adult is traveling with the child, consent or guardianship documentation may also be needed. That is not paperwork for paperwork's sake. It is a child protection control. And if you arrive without the right documents, the fact that the child is your child may not be enough to move the system. So if you are traveling with a child this week, do not guess. Check the documents before leaving home. Fifth, do not forget customs. Entering South Africa is not only immigration, it can also be customs. Immigration asks who you are and why you are entering. Customs asks what you are carrying and whether it should be declared. If you are carrying parcels, stock, food items, goods for sale, or goods for someone else, do not treat the crossing as only a passport exercise. Prepare for questions. Do not let someone else's parcel become your border problem. If you do not know what is inside a bag or parcel, do not casually attach your name to it. That risk is not theoretical. At the border, your name, your luggage, and your explanation must line up. Sixth, buses are exposed to group risk. If you are traveling by bus from Harare, Masvingo, Rutenga, Beitbridge, or Bulawayo toward Musina, Polokwane, Pretoria, Johannesburg, or elsewhere in South Africa, remember this. Your own documents may be fine, but the bus can still be delayed by other passengers. It can be delayed by inspections. It can be delayed by declarations. It can be delayed by a child document issue. It can be delayed by one unclear travel story. It can be delayed by goods carried under someone else's name. That is why this week's advice is practical. Do not travel on the last possible day before work. Do not travel on the last possible day before school. Do not travel on the last possible day before a funeral. Do not travel on the last possible day before an appointment. Do not travel on the last possible day before a return deadline. Build in time. That is not fear. That is operational discipline. Now, what changed and what did not change? What has not changed is that Beitbridge remains a working border crossing. People are still crossing. Buses are still operating. Private cars are still moving. Commercial traffic is still using the corridor. Families are still traveling. But what has changed is the level of risk for the casual traveler. A person who arrives with a valid passport, clear purpose, known address, return plan, child documents where needed, and a checked stamp is in a stronger position. A person who arrives with a vague story, weak documents, unknown parcels, missing child paperwork, or no time buffer is exposed. That is the viewer translation. This week, the smart traveler does not treat Beitbridge as only a road crossing. The smart traveler treats it as an immigration and customs checkpoint. That means the journey begins before the bus reaches the border. It begins when the traveler checks the passport. It begins when the traveler confirms the destination. It begins when the traveler checks the child documents. It begins when someone asks, "Can you just carry this parcel for me?" It begins when the traveler decides whether there is enough time before the appointment, the job shift, the school term, or the family event. On the information available as of Thursday, May 14th, 2026. The Kopje Journal and it reviews working forecast is manage pressure, not border collapse. Manage pressure means the crossing is open, but travelers should expect procedure. Queues may move, but not always quickly. Visa-free travelers may enter, but weak travel stories remain vulnerable. Families may travel, but missing child documents can stop the journey. Buses may operate, but one passenger's problem can delay the whole bus. Goods may move, but unclear parcels and undeclared items can create avoidable exposure. That is a forecast, not a fact. It does not mean every traveler will be delayed. It does not mean every person will face long questioning. It does not mean every bus will have problems. It means the careless traveler carries more downside than before. This is not a panic message. It is a preparation message. If you are crossing from Zimbabwe into South Africa this week, the practical takeaway is simple. Travel light. Travel documented. Know your reason. Know your address. Know your return plan. Carry child documents where relevant. Do not carry unknown parcels. Do not confuse visiting with working. Check your stamp before leaving the counter. The stamp is not earned by nationality alone. It is earned by satisfying the officer that the visit is lawful, temporary, and credible. Beitbridge is open, but it is not forgiving. That is the clean takeaway for this week. The crossing may be manageable, but the traveler must be prepared. Thank you for watching. This has been the Kopje Journal and Review Check-in. If this update was useful, please like this video and subscribe for more clear analysis on Zimbabwe, South Africa, and the wider African region. Let us know what you are seeing on the ground. We read all comments.